So what would be better than 6 unfinished projects, I hear you ask? Well, no. 7 unfinished projects sounds pretty good. Been watching all these guys have a lot of fun with their little Power Wheels builds and stuff like that. So here we are. I've got a wrecked quad that I got for $50. It's got this quad. I didn't get any wheels with it, and I got this box of parts. And in the box of parts is some motors and wiring and stuff like that. This quad, someone had a go at trying to have it as a project, and this will be the basis for what I'm going to build. Keen viewers of this channel will know that I don't really like spending too much money, and I'm a bit of a diver, as you would say. So that's why the body is going to be made from this bin. Now the first thing to do is start hacking this up. What I'm going to do is just support the lower part of it, and then take the backbone out, take the steering apart, and take all these side bits off, and sort of cut the frame down. And I'll probably take this motor out and put the motor I'm actually going to use in it, and do the mock-up with that. I'm going to use this motor here. This was given to me by a guy that I did some wiring for, and he had this laying around. And he said, "Oh, man, do you want this? I'm not going to use it." So this is a 110cc automatic 3-speed with a chain drive output, which is really exactly what I want. But the thing is that this is a standardized form factor, so a lot of these motors are copies of the Honda CT series motors, like 90s and 110s that fit in postal bikes and stuff here in Australia. And this bike is built around that format as well. So yeah, I'm just going to swap that motor into this frame after I pull the backbone off and everything like that. And then then I'll get all that lower support done, and I'll probably build another frame and stuff. And yeah, we can see how that's going to all fit. Alright, so this pile of junk here is what I'm left with in a bare frame. This will be the start of what I sort of build on. See, I've taken the steering out, the motor's off. This backbone sort of frame that's going to go, I'm going to use the standard swing arm and the standard shock. I'm going to use this motor, and I'm probably just going to modify this backbone to fit the motor, and I'll just adapt my other frame to that. Conveniently, the back of the frame has threads in the back of that, so I can use that to fix my rear frame too. So what I'm pretty much going to do is make a frame that fits on the back, so there'll be 2 sections, and it'll make it really easy to put it together and pull it apart, so that there'll be a rear section and a front section, and there'll just be a couple of fuel lines and maybe a couple of cables that'll hold it all together. So this is the result of all that. What I've done here is relocated the shock hoop. It was originally on the backbone, and sort of remanipulated it so that it goes over the sprocket and the brake caliper. So they've got the the minimum clearance over those, and the shock isn't too high. So what I've done here is join the back arm to the top of the shock brace, and my seat's going to sit over the top of this. Now, because of the shock, the amount of travel in the shock is 70 mil. All I really need is 70 mil over this brace here for my seat to sit, and then I'll have full extension and compression of the shock absorber and won't interfere with my seat. So that's going to be the next thing I do, is to mount the seat and then start probably use that as a bit of a frame for reinforcing it, and tie it into these holes down here, and I might even clean that up and weld further around there so it's a little bit stronger. But I ended up doing this instead. Now, I made this triangular frame and relocated the shock so I don't have that hoop system anymore, and I sunk the shock down in between the swing arm, and it actually gets a fair bit more travel now. And you wouldn't think so, but it does actually have quite a lot of mechanical advantage on there. So all of the force now is exerted in this triangle structure, and it's just bolted to those two pickups that I talked about earlier. So all I've got to really do is put some gussets in here to brace it back to this old backbone. As far as reinforcing that, I've used some angle on here to join the backbone back to the frame, and those bolts go in there with captive nuts. I was going to use this VW steering column with a couple of unis, but I ended up just using the original column because it had this really nice tube and bush system, and it works really well. So all I did was sort of make a plate that bolted onto there, and so I've got captive nuts in there and a bolt either side of that, and those two bolts there, and there's a bolt that goes up the guts from underneath into the shaft there through a Heim joint, and the whole steering column comes out. So to remove the back end, you would undo those two bolts, this bolt, and those two bolts, and the whole back end will come off. And then you can remove the motor or do whatever you really wanted to do. So that's pretty simple. Now, as far as the wheels, so I was gonna put some like chunky wheels on here, but it seems like wheels are rather expensive. So I ended up coming across some wheels, some 10-inch wheels from someone local on Marketplace who happens to actually coincidentally race lawnmowers, which, yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so the holes are pretty far out from the hub. Now, originally, I was going to concede and I was going to run 10s on the back and run these other ones that I got on the front, because the other ones I've got are 9s, and I just thought it would look cool with the 10s on the back, 9s on the front, smaller tire. But, oh man, it was just going to be, way too much jerking around. So what we ended up doing is I'm just going to put this in here and remark the holes on this rim. Now, I went to see a friend of mine, and he 3D printed me a spacer that fits the center of the hub and to the rim, so that holds that captive. And then I can I'm just gonna punch these with a transfer punch, and then just drill those holes. Now, for anyone wondering what a transfer punch is, this is a transfer punch. So what it is basically a rod with a nominal size. You can get these in all different sizes, and this fits into the hole very snugly. What you want to do, and you just knock it, and then use a different punch, like a normal center punch. Just like focus on there. Maybe not. Yeah, and you just transfer that, and then you can drill whatever hole size you want, and it's really accurate. So that's for the front. So as far as the rear wheels go, I'm going to use these 9s, and there's a very specific reason why I'm using the 10s on the front and the 9s on the rear, is that it was just going to be way too much engineering to try and use the 10s on the rear and the 9s on the front. It's going to have to modify way too much stuff, and it was just going to be a bit dicey. So this is the cheapest, easiest, most secure way to do it. And all I did, because the stud pattern was really, really close on the 9s, is use a die grinder and take these holes forward towards each other about 1.5 millimeters. So they just fit straight on the hub now. And I'll probably like run a washer on there or something like that. And yeah, it should be all good. I think probably later on I might get a taller 9-inch tire, which would actually be better because that will help traction in the back end. So yeah, the next job is to sort of get these wheels mounted up and start working on doing the body for it, because I need the body on so that I can design the fuel tank. I'm going to design a fuel tank that fits up the front, and it's going to basically come straight and fill in this like wedgy kind of area. I should be able to really, I don't know, probably about 6 to 7 litres of fuel tank, which would be really, really good. I do have to keep the fuel tank higher than the level of the carburetor on the flats, so I'll probably, yeah, just make it as I go. I have to find some offcuts and see what I can do with that. Alright, I'll save you the boredom of me cutting up bins. This is what she looks like right now. It kind of looks like a rider mower at the moment, but I'm going to put like a little nudge bar at the front and some spotties on the front, and hopefully I've got enough light Lexan left over from that thing back there to make a little windscreen, and you should look like a 4x4. Anyway, these guard flares, I couldn't bring myself to spend $22 to get the eBay like generic flares like these ones. So what I did is I've reappropriated the front lip off of an Isuzu MUX 4x4, and this is one side and that is the other side, and I just sort of slotted them up inside there, and try and get the camera up inside, all the little graduations up there, just slotted it so it conforms, and you just see, just put the standard bolts, just drilled holes in the right places, and so they're like bolted in. They're pretty tough. Obviously this ejecto seato right there, so the seat like fits in about there, and I really wanted a little bit of room back here so I can sort of put a battery and hopefully a little cubby for a little bit of storage. I know it sounds weird, but maybe I could put some rope in there or whatever. Well, the next thing is going to be probably the steering wheel. I'm going to neaten this body up a little bit. I'm just going to, these are going to be on the other side. So the front part of this panel is going to overlap the back part. So the back part will be fixed, and the front part actually comes off with 4 bolts. So I can easily get to the motor and service it and all that kind of thing. So it's going to be just sort of modular in the front end, so I can easily remove it if I need to get to the motor or whatever. You can see under here all the room I've got for my fuel tank now, which is like quite a fair bit. But now that I know where the body line is, I can build the fuel tank from there. So yeah, next step is steering wheel. I'm going to have to make a steering wheel, and then the fuel tank. And yeah, then I'm going to tidy the body up and do a few extra bits. And yeah, we should be good. I still need to trim the wheel guard in there. I might just smooth it off and paint it black on the back, because the back doesn't need as much travel, because the front wheel sort of articulates around. I needed a bit of room inside essentially a wheel arch to let the wheel move. So to avoid it looking like a tractor or a rider mower, I really can't decide what colour to paint it. So if anyone's got any suggestions, then I'm all ears. But for now, I've got other projects to get on with.